Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So I wanted to start out today's video by saying happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there. Hope your day is extra special as usual. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that's really been going on inside my head of late, and just kind of like the grim reality of the future of Social Security and what I think is potentially going to end up happening. And of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts and maybe your thoughts of what's going to happen as well, and sort of the future of Social Security. And it's really got me thinking, like, I can't believe they're actually going to end up doing this to Social Security. But before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so of course, over the past year or so, the main headline for Social Security, of course, has been the insolvency issue. We've heard different dates over the past few years, and those dates have gotten moved up slowly over time. So for example, like last year, according to the Social Security trustees report, they had an insolvency date of 2036, which of course at that time was 14 years away, would have been 13 years away this year, but they came out with a new trustees report, of course, this year, and that date actually got moved up 3 years, all the way up to 2033. Now, of course, there's different reasons for that. Could have been like the 8.7% cost of living adjustment. It could have been the fact that not as many people were paying into the trust fund, more people are out of the workforce now, or perhaps just worsening economic conditions. Regardless, this insolvency date is getting moved up to 2033, which is just 10 years away. Now, 10 years away is not exactly like 3 months away, or like a month away like we had with the whole debt ceiling debacle, but 10 years away, it's going to move very quickly. And perhaps next year, if it gets moved up to another 3 years, that could be 7 years away, which would be 2030. So we just don't know. Now, according to the reason, they say that Social Security will be insolvent by 2033. So Social Security will be insolvent even sooner than previously expected, with automatic benefit cuts now projected to occur in 2033, according to a new report released Friday by the program's trustees. The new projections underscore the limited time that's available for policymakers to deal with the fiscal problems that are quickly rotting away America's old age entitlement program. The more quickly approaching insolvency date also draws a stark contrast with leaders of both major political parties, including President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who have all, at times, promised not to touch Social Security during the ongoing negotiations over raising the nation's debt ceiling. So of course, they say that automatic cuts are going to happen. That's exactly right. If 2033 rolls around and nothing is done, and the program does in fact go insolvent, that means that everyone receiving benefits, whether they're receiving it now and will be receiving it then, or people eligible in 2033, well, guess what? They're going to receive automatic benefit cuts of 25%. That means that if you're receiving $1,000 per month, that's going to get trimmed down to $750 per month, a $250 loss. And as they underscore there, of course, we have leaders on both sides of the aisle saying just not touch it all. Let's not do anything. Let's just let 2033 roll around, the program go insolvent, and then have these 25% cuts. We have Joe Biden saying let's not touch it. We have Donald Trump saying let's not touch it. We have House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying let's not touch it, even though recently he came out and said that we might have to make some cuts to Social Security. But basically, the two leaders, the two people that have the biggest chance to become the next president in the 2024 election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, both of them are saying we shouldn't touch it. And that's really the big problem here. They're saying it's too far away. Of course, it's not going to affect them, because if Joe Biden is reelected and he goes through another 4 years, it's not going to go insolvent under him. It's not going to go insolvent under him. And the same can be said for Donald Trump. If he gets elected in 2024, 2028 is not going to be 2033, so it's not really going to impact them. They don't want it to become their problem. It's the third rail of politics. They don't want to be the one who ends up making some cuts or doing bad things to Social Security that, of course, would be deeply unpopular. Now, if we go back into a time machine back into the 1980s, of course, back in 1983, we were facing a similar issue, but instead of being 10 years away like we are now, it was actually just like 3 months. So they actually had to set up something called a Greenspan Commission to work out ways to make the Social Security program solvent. And whenever they did this, whenever they finally were able to do this in a bipartisan manner, they actually projected their changes would actually make it so Social Security would be solvent through around the late or mid 1950s. Well, they were off a good bit, and there's numerous reasons why, which of course we are going to get into. But according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, the Social Security Trustees report released yesterday moved at the projected date on which the program's trust fund will become insolvent from 2036 to 2033. Quote, never since the 1983 reforms have we come as close to trust fund depletion as we are right now, Trustee Charles Blauhaus is quoted as saying in several news reports. The comment is literally correct, but easily misunderstood. Insolvency is now 21 years away. Back in 1983, it was 3 months away. And actually, it would be just 10 years away now. So on April 20th, 1983, President Reagan signed major Social Security reform legislation, which Congress had passed by large bipartisan majorities. The program's actuaries had warned that unless policymakers acted, Social Security would be unable to continue paying full benefits in July 1983. But soon after the law's enactment, the trustees certified that the trust funds wouldn't become insolvent until sometime outside their 75-year window for evaluating the program's long-term finances, that is, until after the late 2050s. And of course, the prediction of the program being solvent until the mid to late 1950s, of course, was quite a bit off, because now they're saying 2033, so they were around 20 years off of their prediction. Of course, this could have numerous factors. You know, for one, we've had larger inflation than expected. They wanted a 2% rate of inflation, but that's been a lot higher over the years. Some years it has been at 0, other years much higher. For example, the COLA for 2023 was 8.7%. So of course we have more money going out of the trust fund. And then of course, just, worsening economic conditions, people, not paying as much into the trust fund. And then also people not having as many kids as they used to. So we're going to have more people pulling from the trust fund and retiring, but less people paying in because people were having fewer kids. So of course we had that difference as well. But regardless, even though it's not 1983 and we're not 3 months away from insolvency, 10 years is still 10 years. And we have leaders on both sides of the political aisle saying we're not going to touch it at all. We're not going to do anything because it's not their problem. They're just going to continue kicking this can down the road. And the biggest problem, I feel like, at least in my opinion, is back in the 1980s, we actually had some sense of bipartisanship. Sure, Democrats had their own ideas, Republicans had their own ideas, but as I mentioned in this article, this bill for Social Security reform actually passed with large bipartisan majorities. And today, I feel like there's less and less bipartisanship in Congress. And that could be multiple factors. It could be like the rise of social media. People in Congress just want, like their viral moment online where they look popular. They don't want to agree with the other party. They don't want to, a Republican doesn't want to look like a rhino for agreeing with a Democrat, and a Democrat doesn't want to look like a sellout by agreeing with a Republican. And I feel like, people just can't agree, and they don't want to agree with the other party because they feel like that's going to make them look bad. And that's just, the sad reality of things. And it looks like we might just be kicking the can down the road until the very last second, until maybe 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months before the insolvency date, just like back in 1983. But unlike in 1983, I feel like every single year that goes by, we have a growing sense of just partisanship and each party hating the other side of the aisle. And we can see it in our everyday lives as well. People are literally throwing their friends away or not talking to family members because they don't agree with their political views, which is just really stupid. And I feel like that's just going to increase over time, that it's just a lot of really silly political things. Like, we're not getting along because of political ideas, like we can't agree. We can't find a center balance on things. And really, if you ask a lot of Americans different questions about different ideas, and you don't include the word Democrat or Republican, and you just talk about these ideas, you don't say whether a Democrat supports it or whether a Republican supports it, we can actually get a lot of people on board with the same ideas. So for example, we have a poll from Data for Progress, And it says that some members of Congress are proposing new legislation to expand Social Security benefits. This legislation would raise Social Security benefits for all beneficiaries in order to match the rising cost of living. The legislation would also protect Social Security benefits against rising inflation and ensure that no one who has worked and paid into the system their entire lives will retire in poverty. This would be paid for by imposing, for the first time, payroll taxes on Americans making more than $400,000 per year. Currently, payroll taxes are only imposed on those making $147,000 and less. That's actually $160,200 now. Do you support or oppose this proposal? And as you can see from the results there, we have Democrats, we have independents, we have Republicans all supporting this bill, either strongly supporting it or somewhat supporting it. And as you look into the question there, they don't mention whether this was a Republican idea. They don't mention whether it's a Democrat idea. And well, actually, it was Bernie Sanders' idea. Now, if they worded the question like Democrat or independent Bernie Sanders came up with this idea to raise Social Security benefits by taxing people who earn above $400,000 per year, we might actually have a lot different results where, you know, we might have Republicans actually opposing it just because a Democrat came up with the idea. And you could say the exact same thing, vice versa, where if a Republican comes up with an idea and a Democrat knows it was the Republican's idea, they would oppose it just because it was a Republican. You know, we just had this sense of, you know, hating the other side. And unbelievably, you know, like I said in the title of this video, I can't believe it's actually going to happen, but it looks like we are going to indeed kick the can down the road another 10 years, not do anything about it now. And likely, you know, it's either going to come down to everyone receiving benefits then receiving an automatic cut of 25%, or they're going to have to make very drastic last second changes like they did in the debt ceiling bill, where they're probably going to raise the full retirement age. They might end up cutting benefits as well and just making the program in general a whole lot weaker, as opposed to if they just did something now, they could probably save the program and not make as drastic of changes or making the program all that weaker. But like I said, I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and comments on all of this below. What do you think they should do? Do you believe they're going to make changes in time? Do you believe that Social Security is going to become a whole lot weaker? Do you think they're probably just going to eventually do away with Social Security? Would love to hear what your general consensus is in the comment section below. But that's all I have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. Happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there once again, and I will see you in the next video.